Good morning.
Good morning.
We are back, and I'm so excited to be here. My name is Dr. Caleb Dawson. The doctor thing is new. I got to finish my... Thank you. Did my PhD here and was so wonderfully supported by the Black Studies Collaboratory as one of the dissertation fellows. So I'm really excited to be back. I've tried to insert myself in every program the BSC has been doing, so it's fitting that I get to be back and also with a new role moderating this awesome panel on caring for Black communities. Want to briefly introduce some of these wonderful people who I have the pleasure to know and have befriended and learn from. It's great being friends with really brilliant people, and it's also, and so many times we're having fun, whether it's just around town or on the 6th floor or wherever. But it's also great getting to take time to hear from each other and learn about each other's work. So beyond the friendship that we get to enjoy, I'm also really excited to just reflect with y'all about your work and some of the theme of caring throughout each of your projects that you proposed. So I'll briefly introduce each person, and then I'm going to invite them to take 2 minutes or so to tell us a little bit about their project to get us started. From my right to left, first we have Abby Simmons for their project Simmons Strong, #Simmons Strong, Black Family Reunions and Critical Memory. Then we have Andrea Jacobo. Her project is Beloved Community, an intersectional approach to community-level health equity. Then we have Truck Evans, who's representing Rollout Crew. And finally, Joanna Cardenas, Sustaining the Hood, Care and Community in South Central. I want to get out the way to let y'all hear from them because I'm excited to hear from them. So I'll first invite y'all to spend 2 minutes or so telling us briefly about your project and what you spent time doing in the past years. Could we start with Abby?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do I have to do anything for this?
No, you can just do you.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. I'm Abby. My project involved me traveling to South Carolina and spending 2 weeks with a part of my family that is my great-grandfather's siblings. And yeah, I was really inspired by everyday acts of memory keeping and I don't know, everyday archival work that families do, and especially Black women do in families. And I wanted to participate in that and also take inspiration from it. Yeah, and I'm just happy to be able to tell an interesting family history. I can show you some photos. So on the left is a family Bible that's been in the family since probably the 1910s. And on the right is some photos from one of the first family reunions. They've done them biannually, and there was a decade where they fell off and didn't do it in the 2000s, but the first one was last year after that break. Yeah, so there are some photos of the family. On the left is my Uncle Paul. He owns funeral homes, and that's him with his hearse. And on the right is my Aunt Henrietta and Aunt Justine, and behind them is Aunt Justine's Barbie collection. On the left is my Uncle John, who's a farmer, and he was showing me his land. And on the right is my Uncle Wilbur and his wife, Miss Edna. And I just took a photo in front of their wall of photos and framed, I don't know, certificates, accolades, all of those things. Yeah, there was also a fire in my apartment while I was in South Carolina. So there's a lot more that I wish that I could have shown you, but my time has been limited for the past month and a half, so yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Abby. Okay, Andrea.
I hope everything's okay.
I'm fine.
I'm sorry.
I'm totally fine, thank you.
I actually want to invite y'all to take a collective breath. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold at the top, exhale through your mouth. One more time, inhale. Exhale. And the reason why I asked you all to take a collective breath, the founder of the Memphis Black Healers, Jacqueline Oslin, who cannot be here today with me, and I wanted to bring her into the room, I learned from her that with the presence of breath, you can live life more abundantly. And so my project really focused on how do we bring healing to the conversation of public health approaches. I'm getting my doctorate in public health. I'm almost done. I'm on filing fee. Yes. And this work is actually part of my dissertation. And what I didn't realize is that I planted this seed back in 2017. Before I even thought I was going to come to Berkeley, I saw that there was a need to address health equity issues in Memphis. I was living there. I was a community health agent there. And I started the Health Equity Collective, where we started really having deep conversations. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because when I left in 2019, I left everything for people to just do what you want to do from there. And this is actually one of the things that came out of it. So Memphis Black Healers is just a group of people who are focused on creating, bridging the wellness gap by bringing in holistic approaches to community-centered healing, but also using evidence-based practices. And my approach was really to bring community back into research. As a community health scholar, I really think that the production of knowledge are within the people and how we work collectively. And so this is a focus of us coming together to really bridge all the needs that we see in Memphis. The narrative of Memphis, we've been on the news lately a lot in the past year, and with police killings, but also maternal child health outcomes, even the increase of poverty. I didn't want to play into the narrative of focusing on the problem. I wanted to focus on the goodness that we have and the healing that we have within our own collective people. And so in 2022, when I moved back, we started to focus on what were the big things that we needed to address was maternal health. So we focused on bringing in the nurturing part on Black maternal wellness. And then we also had a lot of conversations of an intergenerational conversation and interdisciplinary conversation of how do we really take care of the Black mother and the Black family. And so that's what we really focused on. And then we started to see, we need to talk about, what about men too, Black men? We also needed to have a focus on mental health on Black men. And so we were like, okay, well, we know that we love a good party. So we ended up going to the Juneteenth festival and doing a barbershop talk at one of the festivals, and which was really dope because someone organization right next to us was like, man, I didn't get my fade today, so I'm here gonna get my hair done. And so it was so nice to see that we were even able to have these conversations about healing, especially Black men that have to hold on to so much and have such an armor to really release all that just by sitting in a chair and having a conversation. And so this was back in 2022, before I even got the Black Studies grant. So we were already starting to do the work, and this was done without any budget. We were just strictly volunteers with a passion, connecting with different organizations. Tone is a large Black art collective in Memphis that is reimagining spaces. That actual space where we're at is actually was an abandoned warehouse that they're trying to become. They're actually working on becoming a multiplex for Black art and culture creativity. And so what ended up happening in 2022 was we had the first Black Yoga Mental Wellness Festival. And it was a one-day event, and we had events throughout the whole day, and people stayed the whole time. And what we really wanted people to do is have a place for them to just be. And what you see here was the survey that I helped create was the brackets are what they felt before: anxious, heavy, consumed, unbalanced, tired. And what you see outside of the bracket is what they felt afterwards: relaxed, seen, held. And we knew that we were onto something when we started to see what the responses were. I needed connection, and I received that today. And so we really held on. We asked questions like, what do you think when you hear Black Memphis community healing and wellness? And this is the question we ask every single time when people come into the space and come to our events. And power and healing really resonated. That's why it's really big on the screen. And so when the opportunity came to apply for the Black Studies Collaboratory, I was like, ooh, okay, let's get some more funding to do what we can. And so we leveled up in 2023 because of the Black Studies Collaboratory. I just want to say thank you so much. And we actually started going and occupying spaces that we would never have occupied, like Rhodes College, which is a liberal arts college. I teach there, caveat, but also it's a predominantly white college. And having a multi-generational, multi-ethnic conversation on healing and radical imagination is at a hall that used to be named after a white supremacist and changed to Southwestern Hall because of the changes of 2020 and the need to change the way buildings are named after. We started to see that what if we really reimagined the way we curate the space? So if you notice the space in there's like, you could feel you could look at the texture of the blanket just so that people to feel things, and that's the earthing segment that we had, and air. And so we just started having this deep conversation, and Dr. Rupa Maria really planted a seed of what if we created a portal? And so we started to evolve. And the same event that we had in 2022, we actually evolved into grief work. We started to talk about what does it mean for us to heal the loss of our babies and grief of even infertility. And so we started to organizing along with other organizations like Choices and Black doulas to really deepen the conversation on maternal health. And this is our grief circle that we had at a sanctuary that we changed the space to have this deep conversation in this healing circle. And so it would lead us to even going into having a hope healing portal that we are now calling this as our way to create sacred wholeness and healing when we're having conversations about maternal well-being, but also Black mental health and even connecting resources. Another thing that I mentioned that I wanted to mention, that the people part of the Black Healers Collective are not just yoga instructors and practitioners and healing artists, but they're also licensed therapists and social workers. And so we were bringing all these different folks together to reimagine the way that we bring healing to Memphis. And so if you see here, this is a part of the event that we had. And why I show Chase Madkins is he's an organizer. He does work on housing tenant rights. And this work is meant for people like Chase to reimagine the ways, the multifaceted ways that they show up. He is an artist himself. He's an entrepreneur. He's also an organizer. He's also really deeply connected in the community. And he's searching for his own healing. And so with the funds from the Black Studies Collaboratory, we were able to curate spaces for people to explore new ways of doing the work. And what we really wanted to do was bring that way that we already connect it and produced forms of knowledge. So you see me here talking like, all right, what are ways in which you feel safe? And so we really wanting to bring their own lived experiences into the conversation. It also allowed me to have a chance to be a DJ. So that was my DJ debut. Thank you, Black Studies Collaboratory. I love music, and I was able to play music and set the vibe for that space. I wanted to also show you that, like I said, this is truly multi-generational. You see a little baby here. And so we're really opening up the space from cradle to a person that's an elder. And so, what I found so powerful is that in this space, it doesn't matter where you're from, your age, your knowledge. We were all there to promote wellness and healing for people. And so, like I said, we definitely leveled up. That one day that we had for just the Wellness Festival, it became 3 days. And we were able to occupy another space, and this is Bridges, and this happened this past July, where we started we went all around the city, and specifically historically Black neighborhoods in Memphis to bring wellness and yoga and different forms of healing and alternative practices. And what really ended up happening is that we really found a way for people to connect with us and release. This was a message that was sent to us on our Instagram page that for the past 3 weeks it has been rough. And this is exactly what I needed to help me release and center myself. We just want people to be able to feel well and center themselves, because when you are able to be centered and grounded, you make better decisions, you're able to move forward, you have more hope. And so we really wanted to make a space, and we're still doing that, for people to release, but also reimagine ways that they can be well. I thought this was really beautiful to see. Like, I don't know if you noticed the rainbow. This was after we had an evening with our ancestors. And y'all, that was really powerful, because right after it rained, and right over where we had the event, there was a rainbow at the end. And I think it really signifies that when we work together and invest in communities that are already having forms of knowing to heal themselves, but we have to remember. We have to remember. The way that the system is set up, we have this loss of memory, and we're trying to make sure that people are able to reconnect with themselves. And so this was the inside. We had our altar in the middle, and we had facilitators. She's an ordained chaplain, Vahisha Hassan. And actually, she's part of the Historical Claymore Temple. And the Historical Claymore Temple was the space where the 1968 workers' strike, that's where they marched from, right? From all the way from Historical Claymore Temple all the way to City Hall in Memphis, right before Dr. King was assassinated. And so we are also occupying spaces and also bringing in conversations of people who've done this work before. And so we're trying to make sure that we remember, we reimagine, and reclaim. And so thank you so much for Black Studies Collaboratory for allowing us to use our shoestring budget to amplify the voices and collective healing. But yeah, I'll talk more later, but yeah, thank you.
I don't have any slides. I don't know how I'm supposed to come behind all of that. But my name is Demorea Evans. I haven't used that since elementary. I go by Truckee, and my mama gave me that as well. But I'm sitting here because of my brother Caleb and Rashad. Saw enough in the work that I do in the community for not just our youth, but seniors, the unhoused, and just trying to help my Black folk in the West Oakland area. So let me just start by saying I am extremely grateful for the Black Students Collaboratory for helping me to be able to do something that I wouldn't be able to, because one thing I didn't have was funding. And this, I took this and I squeezed it, and I squeezed everything out of it. I started to bring a lemon in here that I had extract all. I mean, there was nothing inside of it, but I was able to get a lot done to be able to put a lot of great things in place. And over the past year, there's been a bunch of great things happening. The rollout crew is something that was a part of what I was doing, in which I was feeding. I started feeding during COVID because in my area, there's not a lot of resources in the 94607 area. That's the lower bottom part of West Oakland. And I was very concerned to make sure that my people had what it was that they needed. And I started feeding, and we started this group called the Mama Jean's Pantry, which I named after my mom. And from that, I was riding my bike a lot just to exercise and get out the house during COVID. And then I started a bike club. And the bike club went from, 2-3 people to, I think we maybe had like 2,000 people. We gather on an average of about 500 people from all over. We just look like one big old box of crayons riding up and down the street. But it has been able to pull a lot of people out and bring a lot of people together. And a lot of last year, you guys helped me with just the bike rides, but this year it's really been amplified to be able to do a few other things. So the Rollout Crew is just no longer a bike club. It is now a mechanical engineering cycling program in which I've now established, because I'm an artist by way of God's gifting, an organization called the Create Hub, in which I want to help introduce our youth to different things, right? Like, we've been put in a box, and I want them to know that there's so much more than what society is saying, and so much more than what your house is even saying to you that's been put inside of you. Because when we experience the gift that's been given to us, then we actually tap into, there's this therapeutic escape place that you get to go whenever you tap into your creativity. So we opened up this place called Mama Jean's Create Hub, which I shut down my business, which I had a barbershop for 28 years. It was my only source of income, and I shut it down and opened up this org. I just did it in March. And a lot of what took place is because of the funding that you gave and shared with me. Now we're having, we've been able to, now that we have this space, we've been able to establish some relationships with an organization called BOSS and another organization called Adamika Village, who do a lot of family work. So my focus was on youth, and now, because of how we didn't establish these relationships, now we're working on the whole entire house and working on building community. There was an episode. I don't have any slides. I didn't know I needed to bring slides. I should have brought some slides. But I just wanted to share that the space is a place where I use for artists who don't have a space. It's a space to where you can come and utilize it, but I need you to give my kids back something. That's the payment. I'm not looking for any kind of monetary payment, but I need folk to invest into the kids. And the reason is, man, I'm just looking at how I was handled when I was in the street. When I was in the street, I was heading directly to the penitentiary. But there was one guy who took a chance and said, man, look, I see you on your porch, you cutting hair, let me put you in the shop, put me in an apprenticeship program, and expose me to something different. I never looked back. And I'm looking at how our younger children are being left without the opportunity to be able to experience a better life. Their hope is being taken from them because of just the way the streets is, and even the way some things are even set up in the system, right? Intervention is something that is huge in Oakland. And I believe prevention is where we're going to be able to cut it at the root to be able to stop the recruiting so that we won't keep having the same issue. So the focus have to be on the children. And now that we have this space, we've had 3 human trafficking workshops, because that is something that our kids is really not aware of. They don't know how to watch themselves and be aware of what's going on. So we've been having some specialists come in and teach on human trafficking to bring awareness, especially with schools starting back. And we've been having some folk come in and teach entrepreneurship. We just had an event called the Pretty Purse Project, to where some young ladies was brought in and they went through the whole process of establishing their own business. But at the end, they were able to take purses that was donated and stuffed them with hygiene kits and took them and passed them out at shelters to the women who are living in the shelters. But for the bike rides, man, I just want to let you know our biggest ride is our Black History ride in February, and it was going to be just fine with what you guys gave, right? Like for us to be able to pull it off, it was going to be big, but somehow, I don't know, this clothing brand called Actively Black found us and wanted to partner with us, and then Black Joy Parade also reached out to us, and we ended up having about 1,500 people come out. And with the resources that you gave, I was able to feed over 1,000 people that day. And it didn't just go to the bike riders, because that's not whatever I do is never just for a bike ride. It's for anybody who wants to come up, right? Because in these times, man, I'm learning even the person that's going to work every day, working 10 hours a day, is still in need of some kind of support. So what you have given to my org and being able to allow me to pass it out to my people has been greatly appreciated over this past year. Another thing that we did was the Solidarity bike ride, to where there was people being hit on their bikes. People were opening their doors as bike riders was riding. And we were able to pull together and had a OPD come out and escort the bike ride. And we had over 1,000 people that day. It was really bad. I mean, like, it was not bad, like in a bad way, but trying to manage that crowd was something else. But it's been extremely helpful. And inside the renovating of the space, I dropped the ball with no slides, but y'all turned this barbershop into this maker space to where it's able to be built up and broke down for several different types of workshops and classes, and being able to be utilized in so many different ways. There was a mural that we also was able to get done, 2 murals actually. One on the side that speaks to the place. There's a beautiful message in God being the creator. And then it memorializes my mom. But then on the front, we brought out youth who draw, or who had no drawing ability but wanted to be a part of the mural, and we just kind of gave it a tattoo feel. So the whole front of the building has been doodled on by kids and people from the community. So I wanted everyone in the community, or anyone who wanted to be a part, to be able to touch it, because I didn't want them to think that it was mine. I wanted them to be able to say that it's theirs. And whenever the kids go by and be able to see it, that they can recognize that that is something that they've done. Because my focus is not reentry. I don't believe that my kids need to be documented before you get a chance. My thing is to reroute them. Mm-hmm. It is to move them as far as I can away from the system, and that's being able to allow them to tap into the things that they have within them that can empower, that can enrich, and that can help them to develop themselves to be the best version of themselves.
Yes.
So I also don't, it's not, is it working? Is it working? No.
You're good. Okay.
Yeah, so I also don't have slides, so don't feel bad, Trekkie. But I'm Joanna Cardenas, and I'm a PhD student here at Berkeley. And to start off, I do want to say thank you to the Black Studies Collaboratory, but more specifically to you both, Professor Paschel and Professor Rayford. You both have touched so many lives and have allowed us to create and capture so many beautiful memories. So I just want to say thank you from South Central and me. We want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. So for my project, I was able to host 2 different events, one in Spanish and one in English. And these events were meant to open up conversations around the modes of survival that Black and Latinx women engage in when dealing with various forms of state violence, specifically in inner city communities, but South Central LA more specifically, and other policed areas in Los Angeles, but also to provide a space for women to be in conversation with one another, to reflect on how everyday policing has shaped their everyday experiences. And this was made possible through the funding, but then also through partnerships and collaborations with folks in LA. So for my English event, I collaborated with the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition and the Downtown Women's Action Coalition. Stop LAPD is a community-led organization that does a lot of work around the policing and surveillance practices that LAPD engages in and informs community about it. They expose a lot of things about LAPD that should be important and accessible for community members to know about, specifically around like algorithmic policing practices that LAPD is engaging in, and just other practices that they're also doing to surveil and intimidate people in LA. And DWAC is also another organization in LA that provides resources for Black women in LA, but more specifically to women and families in Skid Row. And for my second event, I was fortunate enough and very, very grateful to collaborate with my mother, Maria Anacleto, and another community member, Evelia Gonzalez, for Spanish-speaking community members in South Central. And for me, I think this project is very, very important because it's informed by my own work that I've done around policing in LA and how that affects inner city women, but then also because I wanted to do something where I also allowed myself to partake in this kind of conversation, where I wasn't just facilitating what we were talking about and how we thought about police, but also allow myself or give myself the space to be vulnerable and integrate myself in the conversation where I'm also from here and I see what you're seeing. I've lived through what you're living through in some capacities. And I feel like that really allowed for a space to really have very intimate and real conversations about the harms that policing does to us, and especially in an area like LA that's so over-policed, hyper-policed, and where we face so many different forms of surveillance. Both of these spaces really allowed women to come together to really reflect on a lot of things that we've normalized throughout our whole lives, right? But what I appreciated about both of these events too is that it created this form of like community and support amongst women who we wouldn't have met otherwise. And it provided a space for women who did know each other already but didn't know a lot about our own personal experiences to be like, wow, I didn't know you were going through that, you know? And I also have a similar story. So it just really provided a space for really vulnerable conversations. There was a lot of tears, laughs, joys, a lot of joy. And similar to Andrea, we also had a little raining situation for one of my events. It started raining also. So it was really funny because this was my Spanish one, which I hosted in my home. So everyone was trying to bring the books inside my house. And you know, we had like 30 people and my mom was like, it's okay, we'll fit them all in our living room. I'm like, Mom, 30 people do not fit in this house. But it was beautiful because even at that point, right, it starts raining, everyone's trying to bring the books to me and everyone's in a line, 5 books per person, you know, bringing them to me to put them inside my house. Everyone was just so happy. And they're like, it doesn't matter if it's raining, we can still talk about it outside, you know, and people were saying these are blessings, you know, so it was just so beautiful to share and experience that with people where they were all just very happy and grateful to have a space where they could really think through about things that they normally wouldn't think about because they're either working all the time or just doing so many things, or dealing with life or dealing with the, you know, aspects of policing that are informing their own experiences. So this project was able to host and create these beautiful, beautiful spaces filled with love and care and intentionality that thankfully don't just stop there. You know, and they've created and opened up a lot more opportunities for the future as well. So thank you.
Wow. I love how the Black Studies Collaboratory gives resources to folk who are already deeply embedded, and that those folk get to further like enrich the connections that are possible and help people to come together, and then also hear so much about healing, about recognition was a theme from the last panel, and there's so many things that we could talk about from what y'all have said. It's also beautiful to me the way that family legacies are so embedded in our legacies of connection to certain places, whether Memphis or Lower Bottom to South Central and the Carolinas. And I think one thing that's sticking out to me and that I want to pose as a question is about the ways that the Black Studies Collaboratory has really supported y'all in not only dreaming, but like experimenting and trying new things. It sounds like y'all were already, connected to family and aware of some things family were doing, but wanted to take it a step further, or inherited this legacy, for example, Chuck, with your mom being someone who's generous and doing food pantry, to expanding who you can reach out to. So I think I definitely hear how y'all were able to take new risks and take it to another level. And I know sometimes there's challenges when you do that. And I think the Black Studies Collaboratory has been a really dynamic space to hold those challenges. So we want to hear a bit about what challenges y'all might have faced when you're getting to try these new things, and how you might have grown or learned from experimentation and facing those challenges. And here we can jump in any order, so whoever's eager to get us started can go for that.
Well, I guess I was getting pushed in the back. Some of the challenges I really ran into is really hurtful, because I'm such a giver, and it was with people, and it can be a challenge sometimes working with people. I'm trying to say it the best that I can, you know. But here is what I've learned. I didn't know Caleb long, and this is the best way I can put it. I haven't known Caleb long. We met each other on bikes. We met each other through an Instagram DM, like, when is the next bike ride? And he came to the ride and started helping, and he never looked back. Him and Rashad, he brought Rashad, and then I called them my super intelligent super friends. You know? So he took a guy from the hood and then brought me with some guys who got some hoods. So what I can do on this side, they can, and I can take it. But it was just a beautiful match. And it's not so much of what I knew, it was who I was introduced to that put me in a position to be able to get the help that I had received. But it was also the same people that I had myself in company with that was not allowing me to be able to get what I needed. So making the adjustments to be able to see the situation grow was challenging, because my heart, I'm always trying to work, but it was holding me still. And that was probably like the biggest challenge, working through having to be grown with dealing with relationships. And it's still been a struggle, but the best thing I can say is everything has just been growing. Like, my people has been blessed, and it's taught me in this business, because I hated being a boss when I had my business. Like, I was a friend instead of a boss, and I learned in my business it suffered because, I was a friend, right? And because of who I worked with, I had a lot of NBA and NFL clientele. I was able to sustain my business, but I was a terrible boss. So in this arena, it's taught me, my skin has been a little thicker, because I'm so focused on the goal, and that's being able to put these kids in a position to be able to come out of the situation at the end. I have to protect them. And yeah, relationship was probably the biggest obstacle. Thank God for new friends.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, when you set to do a project, when I applied, the original plan was to create a fellowship and do a curriculum and have people go through the curriculum. And I was supposed to do it this summer. And that was the biggest challenge, because it didn't happen this summer. And I think from the last panel about this third eye kind of research, we do everything with intentionality. We do everything that with the Memphis Black Healers with, like, if things are not flowing, let's take a pause and see where we can go from here. We are still doing the curriculum, the fellowship. It will happen this fall, and it's also part of the season because in the summer we wanted to just engage with people, and what it allowed me to do with that challenge was to create the curriculum while we were doing the work. And so the framework that I use is called the BEAR framework, which is Black Emancipatory Action Research, where it uses theory and practice together. And one of the components is healing. And so what I thought was what would happen in the summer, and I felt really bad that I was like, oh my God, I gotta do this and I gotta make sure that's done. But what I really appreciated about the Black Studies Collaboratory was that it was unrestricted funds. You used it however, and that's something different because in any grant providing entity, you need to have certain dates and certain deliverables, and that space allowed us to reconvene and shift. And now this is kind of like a joke in my head, but like, or Care Bears, and because Care is the fellowship, right? And Bear is a framework, and so the cutesy in me was like, oh my God, we could be Care Bears. And Care is community healing, arts, racial health equity, and environmental justice. Though I found it was a challenge, I think what you said really resonated with me in terms of like having this thick skin and also like understanding that the relationships are much more important and in the process because though we were set to create something in the summer, I was able to build stronger relations with people. Mm-hmm. And the fellowship we'll be able to tap into those specific relationships that we built over time. So now we were now wondering, who do we give this fellowship to? And the fellowship, what part of the funds, we're gonna pay $500 to each student, to each fellow, and we'll have 5 fellows that we'll have for this fall.
Go ahead, Joanna.
Yeah. I think for me, one of the challenges, and I think Alexandra mentioned this in the last panel, is like what happens when you open up a space for people to open up for the very first time or to open up about very intimate experiences that they haven't thought about in a particular kind of way. And I think for me that opened up a very, very, very heavy conversations that sometimes didn't just involve police, in our experiences with surveillance, but also just more broadly speaking about the gendered violence that happens and that inner city women are subjected to, right? So that was something that I encountered, and I had a feeling that it was gonna happen, but I didn't think it was gonna actually happen, So I think for me, that was one of the challenges, like how do I affirm them, but also how do I give myself space to hold everything that people are sharing as someone that they're kind of looking for as, like, at some point people thought I was a psychologist. I was like, I'm not a psychologist, but like, how do I show up for people in my community in this space, but then also after we leave. And I think that's also another challenge for me. I mean, I'm here in the Bay Area. These were events that I hosted over the summer, but how do I continue to try to find ways to show up for my people in ways that they've expressed that they want me to show up or need support in? So thankfully, like, I was able to create partnerships and relationships with people throughout the summer to hopefully find a way to continue being a resource and continue being that form of support for women in my community. But finding that balance, I think, was definitely challenging, and how to hold these stories with the respect and intentionality that they deserve.
A challenge I experienced was it kind of felt like the family was in crisis as soon as I got to South Carolina. The day that I came in, my aunt who I was staying with was having like really concerning health symptoms. We took her to the ER. She ended up having brain surgery and was in the ICU for a few days. And she's fine now, she's doing just fine. But yeah, my apartment burned like a week into me being there. I got the call about the fire, like right as I was talking about my family's church that burned down in the 90s. Wow. That was burned down by like some white people who hate Black people. And yeah, a family member has passed since I was there. Other family members have been sick. And yeah, I just got the sense that like a lot of people in my family really felt like we were in crisis, and like they used the frame like the words under attack. And it was really unique and intimate to like, I don't know, be there trying to document something during this period of time. And it was also unique to be around people who felt really strongly, like even though all these things were happening, that everything was gonna be okay. And like part of that I think is because they're Christians and like very strong in their faith. And another part of that is like they're very wealthy, so like things are gonna be okay. And yeah, I learned that this part of my family, there's like people who own multiple businesses, farmers, a landlord, reverends, pastors, deacons. Yeah, like there's been a lot of property ownership for generations. I learned that they're in this position because their parents, my great-great-grandfather, Jackson Simmons, got rich bootlegging in the 20s and bought land. He had sharecroppers and was a banker. And like this was all unexpected to me, of course. And I think that like I've been drawn to Southern like material cultures and music and things like that for a long time. And like either way, I was excited to document the family history as honestly as I could. And like while a lot of those things obviously upset me and didn't make me happy to hear, I think that like it's a reminder that even if you're like into a certain culture or drawn to it, like not everything that Black people do there is going to be necessarily good or bad in a black and white manner, or like radical or reductive in a black and white manner, because Black people are not like a cohesive group like we love to feel like they are. So yeah, that was my experience and my challenges.
Thanks, y'all. Yeah, varied challenges, relationships being an important theme, importance of like shifting gears and finding those relationships that are nurturing. Also nice that like, yeah, even relying on family resources, like, hey, amongst, things might be going on, but amongst the number of us, like we also have resources that we can rely on. Fortunately, intergenerational resources, that's a blessing to be mindful of. And that's also interesting, something to document, like, oh, I guess we're gonna be okay because we can document that, you know, there's this history of our family developing these resources and whatnot. So it's interesting how that might even tie into the study, or yeah, just the importance of balance and shifting. And I just heard like y'all have been really agile with the challenges that have come up and what you can do about it. And sometimes that's different people, sometimes it's a different time. Sometimes it's figuring out what you can do at this time that may look a little different, but I hope y'all continue to, yeah, be gracious with yourselves and ride out the dream project as the dream changes a little bit. I believe after this, we have a few moments left, and I believe after this we'll have lunch. So if y'all have questions, I'd encourage y'all to be thinking about those so you can approach them with gratitude, but also any questions or follow-up that y'all have with them individually. I want to pose one more question for us to kind of wrap up the panel. I'm hilarious. I'm like, oh, it's now, yeah, a minute before. Concluding thoughts, like on the theme of caring for Black communities, like if y'all could leave us with just a brief parting word, what might you want this audience to take from that theme, caring for Black communities?
You know, it's like now that I'm learning, right? Like since I'm on the other side, and I've been out of the street since I was 19. I'm 45, but just being able to look at it, there is so much in me that was not nurtured, and a lot of it that was in me was not nurtured on purpose, right? And I was a part of a systematic distraction to destroy my people, right? Like I stopped doing what I was doing because of what my mother put in me, and I couldn't do what I was doing on the street because I was trying to do it with morals, right? And you can't do streets with morals. Like you can't see someone you know and say, nah, I can't do that with them. And then see the kid in them like, nah, I can't do that because she have kids. Like, I was just really out of place. Yeah. But what I didn't know was I was being systematically set up to be destroyed, right? And because of my contribution to the destruction, I owe this to my people. I'm indebted to my people. I owe them this. I don't mind getting out of my bed in the middle of the night and going and being what I need to be for a family. Because I know there are some households that what I did in the street just dismantled that. By my interactions with the parent, I've probably disrupted the futures of children. So my thing is to be a part of the restoring and the reviving and the healing of my people, right? Like, no, we don't have to settle for this. And the thing with me is to protect the future, because now that I'm looking at it, if you look at the news, the crimes that are taking place, the kids are getting younger and younger.
Yep. Yeah.
They're getting younger and younger, right? And it's on both sides. You're starting to see young girls, young boys, and part of that is they have nothing, and we think that it's about, whenever I'm sitting in these rooms, you guys, it's always about, money, give them money, and that's not it. When I'm talking to these kids, I'm finding out that these kids can't read. I'm finding out these kids is hungry. I haven't ate in a few days, right? So it's embarrassment and starvation, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and psychologically, right? And I'm trying to put things in place to be able to help grow that. See, because they haven't, we need to protect their innocence. We need to pour the water on them now, because if we don't, then we're just going to keep seeing the same thing happen, and we're going to keep watching what our ancestors have put in place, which was strong, just disappear. My neighborhood was probably 95% black. It's probably about 20% black. And it almost feel like as if it's not mine, right? But the kids that are still there and the kids that are coming in, before I was just coming in here, I had a parent calling me, telling me that she needs some help with a kid, and just trying to put people in the right direction, locking arms with folks. Like I heard you making mention of gender-based violence. I would love for you to be able to come and see what this team that I've connected myself with is actually doing with the whole gender-based violence thing. And I'm into the art, right? So we all can become arms to one another. I'm a huge fan of cartoons, and I'm gonna say this and then I'm gonna leave it alone. But Voltron is something that I really see this outreach work connected to. Yes. So the cartoon would be fun for about 24 minutes. You probably see a couple of cereal commercials and all that kind of stuff. But right at the end, you would have the red line, the blue line, the yellow line, the green line, and the black line come together. And whoever they was getting, once they came together, whatever they was going up against, it was over. If we could ever just come together like those lions in Voltron. Yes. I'll leave that right there. I'm gonna leave that right there. I'm gonna let y'all let that kind of
Yeah. I just want to bring community back to our healing. I think with this, the way that wellness, healing is being portrayed right now is still very capitalistic. It's very individualistic, that it's your own. But there's a power in bringing people together, right? Yep. And talking about color lines, the chakra system, which are energy wheels that we all have, they're all color coordinating, right? And so what does it mean for us to be like Voltron, having these unified, but also unifying our own selves while we're in community? And so that's what I want to leave y'all with, that, in your own individual healing, get into community, because that's where the care is.
Thank you.
I thank you both for sharing what you've already shared. I'm also on the same boat. Community, I think, is one of the best things that we have to offer to one another. community brings people together. It allows us to center ourselves in a particular kind of way to reflect, right? But then it also allows us to listen. It allows us to show up in a variety of ways, whether we choose to engage in a conversation, whether we just choose to be in the space with other folks. I think that's where the care sits and stays with us. And I hope we can continue to find new ways to engage with one another and continue validating our own experiences with one another and validating our multiple ways of knowing, what we know, and just to validate each other's existence and experiences.
I think that we should always continue to center Blackness and Black people, but also remember things like class and geography and things that we sometimes don't think about, when we take care of our communities.
All right, y'all, please give it up for this amazing panel.